So you've spoken a lot about working to your own rhythm. Like, when did you realize that not everyone's rhythm looked the same?
I think from working with other people or seeing other people work, and this is mostly through social media. So from that, you have to realize that a lot, or maybe the majority of what you see on socials is fake.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Finding My User Manual, podcast about learning to be human when no one gave you the instruction manual. Today, I am so thrilled to invite Matthew Vandeputte. Did I say that right?
Correct.
Yes, I'm so bad with last names. To the podcast today. It is such a privilege to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Very happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Congrats on the podcast.
Thanks. Do you know what? I've missed podcasting so much. It's so great to be back. And actually, do you know, to hear everyone else's stories as well. We met maybe two.
I want to say 3 and a bit years ago. I think we were both jury members. How do you say that?
Yes.
Oh, it's at a
at
film competition.
ISO, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Student. There was a
film awards.
color. Yeah.
Something.
It's a whole load of.
Yeah. It's a lot of interesting people, a lot of interesting films. And now we're friends.
Yeah. And thankfully we run into each other like every so often at events. We're like, I mean, we should really hang out more.
Yeah.
And this is the perfect reason. Let me give you a full introduction. So, Matthew Vandeputte is a London-based filmmaker and founder of MVDP Studios, a creative agency known for delivering high-energy, story-driven visuals for global brands and live events, including Formula One Las Vegas, NFL, and Red Bull. I mean, that's a pretty fancy list. His work sits at the intersection of technical precision and emotional impact, designed not just to be watched, but felt. Alongside his commercial work, Matthew is a dedicated educator through his video courses and social platforms. He teaches creators the craft of time-lapse photography, breaking down complex processes into accessible, practical knowledge. Definitely worth checking out, by the way. Matthew's openness to discussing the realities of running a creative business, sharing authentic real-world insights of freelancing, sustainability, and building a career in the modern creative landscape makes him not only a fan favourite amongst his fellow creatives, but the perfect person to lead the conversation today about what it really takes to build a creative life that works for you and not one that just looks good from the outside. Welcome.
That is a very nice intro. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome. I'm all about wingmanning people.
Hyping each other up.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, your work is absolutely phenomenal. I have zero patience to get into time-lapse photography, but every time I watch one of your tutorials or educational pieces, I'm like, maybe I would give this a go.
Yeah, I never consider myself specifically patient or anything like that, but then people start saying, you must be patient because you do time-lapse. And I'm like, yeah, I guess the gist of it is you just sit around and wait for stuff to move very slowly over a long period of time, like clouds or, changing light. And yeah, that's what it is. But I always tell people there's people that are more patient in that niche, and they're the stop motion people because they have to make each frame before going to the next frame. So we're in a very similar style of creating, as in we make videos out of sequential photos, but I just sit back and they're actively crafting little puppets or, crocheting things or I don't know what you call it with the needles and the little felt stuff. That I love watching behind the scenes of that because that just gives me like big inspiration.
Me too. I was obsessed with Aardman when I was at university and like watching them, and the fact that even all the heads are on like these little tiny sticks, so they like swap them out for
the eyes and the mouths and
yeah. I mean, let's talk briefly about your work because let's say, how long is the average finished output? I mean, I know how long is a piece of string, right?
Totally.
But generally speaking, how long is the average commissioned final piece? And in comparison, how long does it actually potentially take to make?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you touched on the fact that how long is a piece of string? How long is a time lapse? How long you've captured it for, right? A lot of my shots, if it's, for example, a cityscape where the focus is, for example, an establishing shot of a skyline of a city, if the clouds are moving fast enough, you can shoot that in 5 minutes. A couple of minutes set the camera, hit record. It shoots a photo every 2 seconds. It looks like it's massively long because the clouds are going fast. If the clouds are slow, if they're higher up, you need a longer interval, but you want to shoot, say, 300 photos. All of a sudden, you're doing 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't want just clouds, you want really passive, like a lot longer. A sunset, for example, we call those holy grails in the industry because they used to be very difficult. It's gotten a lot easier now with technology. You'd be there for 3 hours. Then it gets longer. I live in a flat with a really nice view, and then I was like, what's the longest I can do? I just recharged the battery on it. It's up to 1.5 years almost, I think, on that one.
Because this is the camera that you set up and you were like, I'm just going to do the longest, like, season one. I hadn't realized it was still going. 'Cause it has been up for a while.
Yeah, the longest I've done so far that I've finished, you can watch on my YouTube channel. It's a year's worth of, it's a panoramic view of London from my balcony. So it's 270 degrees view, or 220, and it captures all 4 seasons, rain, storms coming in, hail, snow, trees coming into greenery and then losing their leaves again. So it's a 1 year long loop. The coolest thing there is seeing how the sun sets and sunrises moves on the horizon, like a lot further than you think. On the winter solstice and the summer solstice. I think it's in London almost a 45-degree difference.
That's huge.
So think of, this is 180, that's 90. Project that on the horizon. The sun sets there in winter and it sets there in summer, or it's maybe different. That for me was like, oh wow, I didn't realize it. Everyone's aware that the sun moves, but not that far.
Not often do you actually physically get to see that either.
Yeah. And then from that you can make an analemma image, which is a composite of showing the figure 8, where the sun is in the sky at each specific time of day. There's a lot of fun stuff. This is what I like about time-lapse. You shoot a series of photos and then you can make all these things out of it. You can make a video out of it. You can make a composite of, these clouds to make them appear like long exposure. There's shadow movement, there's light bouncing off buildings, all from just, a couple hundred photos on a camera, on a tripod. Yeah.
And how did you, was there a day that you just woke up and went, I think I might try this out? Because, there are plenty of people working in time-lapse photography, but it's generally not one that people actively seem to choose. You might experiment in it, but there aren't many people actively working in this medium per se. I would say
it hasn't been easy or straightforward to make this into a career, and I'm extremely blessed, grateful, and happy and ecstatic that I've managed to do that. But when I discovered time-lapse, I was in film school at the time. This is 2010-ish. Yeah, around 2010. And I was dabbling with photography because you're surrounded by fellow creatives in, film school. And I think we were doing research for some film project on Vimeo, RIP Vimeo. I found a video, I think it was called The Island, by a Scandinavian photographer, and it was just time-lapse photography. And it was the first film that I consciously was looking at, being like, what is this? That's time-lapse. What is time-lapse? It's photos shot over time, but the camera's moving and the camera's on a slider, and so just my brain was like firing at 100 miles an hour. And I was like, I've got a camera. Can I do that? What do I need to do? I could click, or there's a firmware I can install on my Canon. I can hack the firmware, and then I have an intervalometer. I can try that and let me shoot. And I had a little tripod, and I'd put it on outside, and oh my God, I can do this cloud movement, and I can generate a video file out of these photos. That was almost 15 years ago now, I think. Haven't stopped since, have been as obsessed with it ever since. And I've kept trying to push and develop new things for myself, inspired by others, or I've made up, certain techniques or post-production techniques myself to make things easier based on other people's work. It's something that's been around for a very long time. I think in the late 1800s, there's been experiments. Yeah. I did a talk once about it, and I was like, wow, this goes back way further than I think.
Then I suppose if you really think about it, zoetropes are kind of that, aren't they?
Make a video out of.
They just spin rather than
cinema, or film is.
Yeah.
Just photography sped up, right?
Well, yeah, exactly.
It's like the balance, right? There's real-time video or film shot on film. There's time-lapse and there's slow motion. So you shoot more frames, you shoot less frames. In the middle you meet at that. But these two extremes of that spectrum balance each other out really nicely in an edit. So the contrast between, think of a slow motion explosion or a slow motion paint in a fish tank, the backlit. And that is the exact same fluid dynamics that's happening in the sky at a different time or different timing. clouds look exactly the same as that ink getting, you know, splooged into a fish tank, but upside down and much slower. It's all fluid dynamics. We live in a soup and everything's just moving around very slowly.
We live in a soup is one of those sentences that's gonna live in my brain
Clip
for
that.
a really long time. Yeah, this is that was absolutely making the outtake. I am at risk of talking to you about geek photography, tech stuff all day. So I'm going to ask you the most important question, and I'm sure we're going to end up back there anyway. But if you came with a user manual, what would it say on page 1?
When I read this question as the prep, I had a little think, and I was like, I don't know. And I went back to just, I guess, my gut feeling, and this is linked to time, which is funny as a time-lapse photographer, but like do things at your own rhythm and don't feel pushed or pressured by external factors like social media content or feeds or trends or whatever. Try and find your niche and what you're passionate about and try and work on that on your own rhythm. Don't feel pushed too much by all these other things, because then you lose yourself a little bit. And I found myself struggling with that over the years. I've been doing this as a career for I think it's about 14, 15 years now. And I feel like I'm slowly getting there, living and breathing and working and creating at my own rhythm, at my own pace. And that comes in ebbs and flows, it comes in waves. Creativity, as I think everyone in this room knows or feels, it's not always there, you know? You go through these lulls, these periods where it's just not happening. This can be influenced by, you know, physical issues or mental issues that, you know, they bounce off each other. But when I'm in a creative, you know, drive, that's really fun. And then it ends, and then I go through a period, and then it comes back, and sometimes everything aligns, the stars align, and you know, you're just hyper productive in that period. But yeah, I find the struggle with feeling guilty about not always being, you know, at the level that you know you can be. You have to be at ease with that, hence the rhythm.
I think there is such a pressure on creatives to be productive. And I don't know about you, but for me, certainly, the times that my best creatives ideas come are actually the times when I'm not actively trying to engage it. Like the day that you decide, you know what, I'm not going to sit at my desk all day and try and come up with something. I'm going to go walk in the park. I'm going to sit by the lake. I mean, as your stories were showing the other day, you were on some kind of fancy inflatable yacht thing, floating on water, looking like, what was it? This is what, when you email me, this is how much you
I was in November. I was away in Mauritius for 3 weeks, and I discovered sailing as a hobby because they had these little mini catamarans at the hotel, and that's a new, well, at the time was a new hyper obsession. I go from these hyper obsessed things to the next thing, and that was sailing was definitely really big.
I also same. Within that week when you were away, did you find that reset, the being in a new place, learning something new, did you find that your creativity was...
I'd come out of a really, really busy period with work, and this coincided with my wife had just got a new job, and we had 3 weeks off before her new job started, and I had 2 potential jobs in that period, and this sounds stupid from a business perspective, I was kind of really hoping that they weren't going to happen, so I could go to Mauritius with my wife for 3 weeks, which happened. They got pushed back to this year.
Oh no, what a shame.
Yeah.
Oh, you just had to do that work 3 months later and got some time in Mauritius.
And I was there, and I always bring equipment with me just in case I want to shoot something. And I went really bare bones. This is going to sound silly. I went bare bones in the sense that I only brought 1 film camera and 2 types of film with me, and 1 camera and 1 lens, and 1 360 camera. That's bare bones.
No, but I get that though.
You know, there's not a backpack. This fits in a little side bag that I brought with me. And the challenge was to, can I go on holiday and not feel pressured or stressed about making stuff? Just do it at your own pace, at your own rhythm. And it took ages for me to get into now I want to go and capture something. So it was in the very final hotel we stayed at on week 3 that I really enjoyed, just going out with the film camera and finding really nice frames.
Yeah.
And shooting on film is very different compared to digital, which I also did for video. But the relaxation that I felt, and I was like, oh, this is really nice. I'm just taking my time. I'm in that rhythm. I'm now finally there. I'm capturing these stills at my own pace, and that was very enjoyable. Yeah.
I do fully relate to when you're saying like it's silly, but this is my bare bones kit. The last time that we went to Japan, me and my husband, I took I took my full frame medium format camera with 2 lenses.
Good.
I also took the Fujifilm X106, so that's like fixed frame. So
Minimal.
Yeah, so I mean,
Small stuff.
I've got 1 camera and 2 lenses. I've got this camera over here. I took the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, so I've got a little like recording device. I've also got my phone with me that.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that.
And then on top of that, I took a sketchbook. So like, I mean, it was only small. No, of course it didn't. I was having the best time of my life taking photos and meeting Geisha and whatever. But I think that's the thing with creative people. And I'm going to look over at Connor right now, even though he's not mic'd up, who's producing. But I'm pretty sure that he's going to be nodding at me because you travel quite a bit. Yeah. A lot of cameras.
So many. I was stuck all the time.
So many cameras. Heavy backpack. Yeah. Confirming that all 3 creatives in this room do not travel light when they're on holiday. So you've spoken a lot about working to your own rhythm. Like, when did you realize that not everyone's rhythm looked the same?
I think from working with other people or seeing other people work, and this is mostly through social media. So from that, you have to realize that a lot, or maybe the majority of what you see on socials is fake or is not real,
Highlights real,
or is polished to appear better or bigger or more weighty than it actually is. But even if you strip it back to what it probably really is, I see people that are younger than me working in a similar industry to me and just being able to do more. And maybe that's an age thing. I'm 36 now, which is not old at all, but it's older than being 25. And it's older than, or it's different being in an environment where you have less to lose, I think. Less people to provide for at that, stage in your life. And I've been very, very privileged in my career from the beginning that I had a really great fallback net through family, that could support me if things went wrong, but luckily it didn't. And I didn't have to rely on that. But I noticed that people, they're just pushing out a lot more content. And this sounds like I only ever talk about just content. It's not true, but we're specifically talking about, a social media content creator career, for example. If I look at that part of my work and my career, I'm just a bit not as rushed, not as pressed. Yeah. But then you have to battle the kind of like, I feel guilty that I'm not pushing out so much content.
I mean, with similar-ish ages, I've got a couple of years on you, but I think our careers are roughly around the same length. And I do agree with you. I think there was the output of the content I was maybe creating, putting out there in my sort of very early 20s when I started my career is very different to now. I think potentially that stems from a few places. It could be the fact that what I'm putting out is more careful and considered. So I might still be trying things and experimenting, but maybe the threshold at which I put that out into the world may have changed, for example.
Yes, that's also very valid. I'm sharing less of the trials and stuff because I'm also seeing it as an actual portfolio online, and I'm holding myself up to a certain standard.
Yeah.
And I'm no longer just dumping stuff on the feed that was fun to make and was an experiment, but I'm trying to keep it a little bit more professional and yeah. I look at, TikTok and Instagram, for example. I see TikTok as like a playground and Instagram as the polished feed. But I should be looking at them as the same, but I use them both differently. TikTok for me is like fun, easy, consumable content. Instagram's where I go for inspiration and people like really honing in on their crafts. People like you sharing stuff behind the scenes, making those end results. But on TikTok, I want to see funny videos.
Yeah. The content I consume on both channels is very different. It's even, you're right. I go to Instagram for the polished stuff. I go to see people's curated feed. I actually genuinely enjoy looking at people's profiles, not just the one-off pieces. Yeah. But then when I'm going to TikTok, I'm wanting the story time. I want the narrative of that, and actually the quality, not to knock the content, because I mean, it's still incredible content, but it's more about the storyline and the journey that I go on through absorbing that content. It's also where I go to learn. I love picking up information from there, but for me, and maybe that's a creative in me looking for that, but I prefer the curated feed of Instagram when I'm looking for that kind of inspiration. Yeah.
You mentioned learning stuff. I found this for myself a really interesting flip. I always said that YouTube is the king or queen of social media platforms because it is so tied into Google, which is a search engine, which is where people go and find stuff on how to, I'm doing a table refurb, how to re-veneer a table, whatever. I taught myself, well, with the help of my mom recently, how to sew because I want to be able to, fix my own clothes and other things. I have now fully switched to TikTok as the platform where I search things on because I can't be bothered listening to someone's intro or the AI slop generated intro bit that's written, and then you watch the video and then it clicks to the wrong bit of the video, and I now just go on things like how to sew silk because I want to make silk pillowcases because it's a lot cheaper than buying them, right?
Okay, I love this. I love this. See, this is the thing. You are actually being creative. You're just being creative in other ways.
In different ways, but other hyper obsession bits.
In real life rather than,
Yeah, but so now, it's a 60-second video and I watch like 4 of them and they all talk about little something bits, but I'm seeing it happen and it's there. And that for me was a big realization, like, whoa, as someone who's educated people over the last 15 years on how to do time-lapse, etc., I also need to shift my output, my content, my strategy, everything from focusing on widescreen, long form YouTube content to more short form series and searchable content on these other platforms. So my YouTube shift, which we spoke about briefly outside of this podcast before, was 1 to 2 videos a week long form on YouTube. Now that it has to shift because the platform is pushing shorts more and vertical shorter content. I have to move towards that algorithm more. So that, but the switch for me specifically from Google and YouTube to TikTok to learn things for myself as a consumer in this case, as someone trying to learn, that was interesting. It's like, oh wow, I'm no longer using that, which has been the status quo always. I'm now using this, and I find that very interesting.
It's interesting for me because my video journey is very, very new. It's only been the last couple of years, and actually the majority of what I have created has been short form vertical. And I've never, I launched my own YouTube channel a few weeks ago at time of recording. Thanks. I'm so proud of myself. I've been saying I've been doing it.
It's so good. It's great to get started finally.
Well, so my YouTube channel, and I guess this goes into the whole like find your creative flow. I started that channel 14 years ago. As I was uploading that video to officially launch the channel, I went, oh, happy 14th birthday today. And I was just like, oh man. But this is the thing. I think we get so caught up in this timeline of we have to do things. We have to get content out. We have to do this. We have to meet this milestone, that actually, it is okay that it took me 14 years to do it. My point being, though, is that coming from the short form vertical, going into the long form, and me being in this state at the moment where I'm learning all of these things for the first time, I'm realizing that actually, like you said, like TikTok is 60-second, like max 3 minutes, I think it is. So I've been creating long form content because in my head it's easier to narrate that and pretend there's a person that I'm talking to. But I'm literally recording it in a way that I know that I can cut it into the vertical and then literally taking out all of the pauses and things so I can cut that down, like slamming content onto the editing floor just to get it into so that I can meet both. And it's such an interesting time, I think, for creatives, especially those who've been around for a long time. We're used to creating considered long form, well, not me, but other people, considered long form content. And actually people want short sound bites. I want, let's say, for example, you want to learn how to sew a silk pillow. It's like, don't waste time showing me how to set up the machine. I want the right thread, the right stitch. I want to know what angle the fabric, and what angle I should be sewing into this fabric out or cutting it. So
it's funny, we're going in opposite directions. You coming from short vertical to long, and me having done, I want to say maybe 1,000 long videos horizontal, going into focusing more vertical. I don't know what the right way. I mean, it obviously depends on the creator, etc. But I've often felt that I'm hitting the right content at the wrong time, the wrong place. When I was doing travel vlogs, my brother always says, I think you were not ahead of the curve, but if I had started them a little bit later, it would have just gone a lot better. And I've carried a bit of weird emotions about that for a long time. But now I think I've just matured a lot over the last couple of years, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. I've had great success with it, and I'm very happy with where I am. And if I were to if I were to pass on from this realm right now, I could look back and be like, that was banging. That was a really fun, really great career. Yeah.
I think also it comes back into that, like finding your own rhythm. When you're inspired to create something, it's worth just putting it out there, even if it maybe is the wrong time. When I graduated, my degree was actually in illustration, so I was creating stuff that actually I was the right stuff at the wrong time. And if I had stuck with illustration with the style I was doing, or maybe graduated just 3 years later, I would have been perfectly timed. But the work that I was inspired to create just did not land in 2009 when I graduated. In terms of your time-lapse photography, when you started working within that medium, like, through uni and then after you graduated, was it the right time? Do you think you hit the mark?
I believe so, yeah. I think, and I've correlated this, or I looked at the stats on, was it Google Trends that you can look at?
Yes.
If you look at the search volume for time-lapse and then after time-lapse, hyperlapse photography, which is a niche within time-lapse, that peaked along when I started doing that, or tried to start doing it as a career. Peaked big time and then sunk a bit, and it's still there. It's come from pretty much nowhere to a handful of people globally knowing how to do it properly, to a lot of creative professionals doing it as a career, but that's slimmed down a lot as well. I see a lot of people that were growing in the US, in Canada, massively in that hype when you can make a time-lapse compilation of a city and it would make the news.
Yeah.
And that happened to me. I made a video about Sydney, or my first showreel in 2013 went viral because I traveled the world. I mean, I did like Belgium, the Netherlands, Italy, and Sydney, or like around Australia for a bit. But that was enough to be like global time-lapse video, and that just blew up on Reddit, and then that got me in the media in both Australia and in Belgium, and that got me my initial YouTube subscribers, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore. There's still people making those videos, but it's not as new anymore, even though it wasn't new at the time. But it's normal now. Your phone has a time-lapse mode, has a hyperlapse mode, it stabilizes stuff. Everybody knows it. It's used constantly for art projects. The barrier to entry, or the threshold to start doing time-lapse high quality there's no longer a thing.
Yeah.
It's just built into every single camera and every single smartphone now. So that's a really interesting, that industry shifted a lot, and that's why I said at the start, I think I'm always trying to push myself to learn new things, or to come up with new things, new workflows, new looks, new edits, because people are right behind you right now with technology and affordability and software and editing techniques. And now specifically at time of recording, 20 Jan 2026, the whole generative AI slop whirlwind that is happening, that I'm struggling with. I don't really know where that is going, and that's giving me a lot of pause. And luckily I can pause for a bit and just take a step back and see where that's all going. But I'm not feeling too excited for people that have made a whole career in a certain field and then now are seeing their roles disappeared by some tech bros, pretty much.
It is a really interesting time. I've talked at length about this one, and for me personally, as an empowerment photographer, I do feel like the photography industry will split, and I think there will be the sort of like hyper-real AI content that we are becoming more and more used to seeing, and especially as generative program software come into fruition more, and we are somewhat past the stage of people having extra fingers and thumbs. Not always, but like they are becoming, and I'm seeing a lot more AI video, which interestingly, I don't think, unless you've really studied how humans move from it can be quite hard to discern what is natural human movement. But I also think there's this other side of creativity where people need that realness, that authenticity. And, if we go back to where photography started, it was somewhat a trusted format. It's why photographers actually are listed on the people that could sign your passports or like approve photos. Cool. Yeah. And so, I feel like we're going to go into this like double split where the photography industry as a whole, which is quite big, it encompasses the work I'm doing, it encompasses the work you're doing, and everything sort of in between and around and even further into different spectrums. I think there is going to be a split, and we're going to end up, personally think there's going to be like two forms where you've got the ones that want the hyper real, the futuristic, the realistically unattainable, and then the honest, authentic, raw, untouched, unfiltered potential.
Authentic, real humanities behind it, or at the core of the content. Yeah, I feel the same. It'll move, or maybe not split, but it will have. In the future, there will be a larger or a bigger, heavier appreciation for human-made stuff.
Absolutely. I think we're already seeing that in terms of, even music, right? We've returned to vinyls. I mean, what Walkmans?
The amount on the street, the amount of vinyls,
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be so interesting, and I think you said it's a perfect time to take note, pause, reflect.
Yeah, the thing is, a lot of the generative AI stuff that is out there, I find extremely pointless. But the AI technology to create stuff is helping people that don't have, the means to go and buy and make stuff. And we have to be realistic as business owners, which is what the majority of people in our industry are, I think. You have to know what's around there. So you have to play with it, and you have to learn what you can do, and maybe it can help you in certain ways. But again, there's this people that just go like ham on the AI stuff. I find it strange. And then there's, again, with the human or the realness, the authenticity, a time lapse. I mentioned at the start of this podcast, a holy grail time lapse, which is from day to night or from night to day, can now be generated with a start and an end photo.
Yeah.
And it makes that transition appear as a time lapse in between. The lighting doesn't make sense yet. The shadows doesn't make sense yet, blah, blah, blah. The same with construction. You can start with a photo of a field and a finished building, and AI will now generate that whole building. Who is that for? Visually, that is very interesting. But the people, the stakeholders in this content who have funded the content that need to see the stages of the building, need to see the actual construction getting done. Where are the machines? When did we install that? How many people were active in which zone of the construction site specifically? This AI generated stuff entirely defeats the purpose. It's a cool looking visual, and it's very impressive that it can be generated within a few minutes, but it is not relevant at all to the point of this time lapse. Is to show the construction phase of this building specifically. The point of a day to night time lapse maybe in architecture is to see how the light shifts and hits the building, and where shadows are and this and that. An AI engine doesn't know how that will actually look like. It's generated, but it is impressive, and there is AI stuff out there that I find enjoyable to look at, or funny or entertaining. But man, there's a lot of shit out there.
Do you know what? On controversial opinions, because I'm sure there are people that both agree with us and disagree. I'm very much with you in terms of good stuff, and there's a lot of bad stuff. Although I will say, just a side note, I saw this AI, it was definitely an AI video of, it was like a rescue center for dogs, but the dogs got to pick the humans. And so it was dogs.
That was real.
I wish it was real. If it was real, I would be there 100%. The amount of times I would cry over dogs picking their owners. But yeah, in terms of controversial things, tell me about a myth about creative success that you're actively trying to dismantle right now.
I couldn't think of anything until now. I have a few followers on Instagram, 120 something thousand, which is not a huge amount.
Just a few.
It's not a huge amount, but when I meet people and they're like, "What's your Insta?" Whatever, and I say that, and they're like, "Oh my god, wow, that's incredible! That you can't see success and a follower number as a metric that overlaps at all. People assume that people with followers are mega successful, but the amount of creators I see that struggle with making it a career because it's appearing to be a career even though they've got a full-time job, or want to do that switch, which is so stressful. Just because someone has a number or is verified or whatever does not at all mean that they're super relaxed and chill and easy in their career.
Agreed. It is absolutely a metric, and there's nothing to say that those numbers are converting into anything or leading to anything.
Or real even.
Anyone could be, I mean, I don't know. there's a fair few of mine as well, but I don't know how many of them are actually real. If you really narrow it down to the number of those people that I've actually spoken to, I could not verify more than like a few hundred of them maybe. So, but yeah, it doesn't convert. And I think there's been so much pressure on creatives. You know, you can't have access to this until you've reached this metric. You cannot have access to that. We don't want to bring you on as a, I don't know, collaborator, ambassador, affiliate, whatever that might look like for whoever, but you can't have access to this or be on this scheme or whatever until you have this metric, where actually, I mean, micro influencers are actually proven to have one of the highest engagement rates.
Yeah.
So you could have a very small niche audience of 1,000 people, but if you've got 100%, you know, engagement rate, and someone who's got 100,000 has like 0.01%,
which is annoying because you don't set out to grow. And as I said earlier, I've been gone viral a couple of times, which gives you big chunks of followers, and then all of a sudden your active audience is mega diluted because they followed you for a viral clip, but not who you are or the voice behind the content. But you're not going to stop that growth. You're not going to say like, oh no, I don't want these followers, because it is a metric that a lot of people say like, oh damn, this guy's big, he's got over 100,000 followers, blah blah.
100,000 people follow you. You must be worth following. Let me add one.
It's like but it's tricky, that balance. So and then going back to like, how polished do you keep things, because you want to make the content for yourself and for that core audience that you had initially, right? But is that too niche? Are there references in there that a potential new audience member won't get and find strange, that they don't follow? There's no manual for this.
No, that's why this entire podcast exists. And that literally is, I think, the core reason behind me wanting to even just launch this podcast was, you know, I think we're all out there trying. We're all humans living for the first time. Like, we're all here trying it. No one really knows what works, what doesn't, and we're all just trying to work it out. And there are so many of us, especially in the creative space, I feel, that really want to progress our art and put out there and do the best we possibly can. But we see other people doing things like, are they doing it right? Are we doing it right? Like, who's on the right path here? And I mean, honestly, that I think generally the answer is all of us, just coming back to what you said before, at our own pace, at our own speed, and doing what matters to us. Yeah,
doing what matters to you is a good way to say, like, doing stuff that's important, that you find valuable. And sometimes you're lucky enough that overlaps with other people's interests. But there's a lot of talented people out there that make incredible work that is just doesn't have an audience behind it, and then they will never hit that metric that is important for some brands to bring them on board a campaign or a trip or a shoot or whatever. Which is why it's not a given. Like, an audience is not something that comes from just making content. I see these trends like posting every day until I hit X amount of followers. I'm like, do it, man. I'm not going to follow you because you're posting every day. Is what you're making resonating with me emotionally, physically, tangible? Then I'm instantly following. But I don't care about the follower number. I just care about what you're making, or how you're making it, or what you're sharing about it.
I think it's, you see a content creator put something up. There are times when, and especially more recently, I will see someone's content and it's the first time I've ever laid eyes on that person, or at least I'm assuming it is, that maybe it didn't resonate before. But I know in that instant immediately that that person is someone I want to follow. And I'm just like, right, let me leave a comment, like push this content into my algorithm a bit more, instantly give a follow. I will also sometimes even double up with a DM, not because I want anything, but just to create that connection, to go, I am actively DMing you so that you appear in my feed more because I really enjoyed this content.
When you see that, when that happens, was that generally, I think I know the answer here, is it the personality, is it the creator behind the art, or is it the actual end result that you want to see more of?
I think it's the personality, if I'm being honest. Like, I mean, it depends, because if it's an actual photo, like it's a still, I'm probably connecting with the photo, either the narrative of the photo or the actual, I'm just admiring it for the beauty of the composition, the color, whatever, all those cool things. Us creators are just like, oh, how do we do that? And I want that in my feed to inspire me more. But if it was video, it actually could be the person's personality. They could be literally talking about anything, something I'm absolutely not interested in. But if I see someone talking about something they are so inherently passionate about that they are like fully excited, let me explain this. Or do you remember that trend that went round with my husband wants to show you his collection of whatever, and it was like, so you better be nice, and it'd be like this guy walking to the screen and be like, oh hey, so like, this is my, I don't know, Pokemon collection, or you know, this is my rare house plant, and like the partner will be in the back like, yeah, you tell him, boo. And it's like that. I just love seeing people passionate about things, and actually with that stuff, it doesn't matter what the quality is.
I agree. It doesn't really, like, if the person's likable and you know, presents well, as in it's enjoyable to watch the content, don't care what the output is.
Yeah.
There's people I follow, like, you know, I'm really deep in the photography and you know, VFX and editing and all this and that. But a lot of people I follow are just because they're funny, or you know, or look good, attractive, inspiring with how they operate and what they make. You know, there's writers, illustrators, painters, like I was gonna say all visual, but the writer's not really visual. But yeah, there's a lot of people out there that I follow just because they seem like interesting people, and they're not even creators. They create stuff because, you know, I'm seeing it, but just cool people. And that's years ago why I started video blogging, aka vlogging on YouTube, because I was like, I make stuff, but I'm also like, I know and a fun person to be around, or like I do interesting stuff. I travel a lot and I meet interesting people, and I want to show people that because I like in consuming that. So I want to be that for someone else, which is how that all started. And that's paid off now because I'm very comfortable, you know, making Instagram stories and doing podcasts and stuff like that. So yeah.
I think the work you're putting out there, I mean, your work is stunning anyway, but I think what drew me into it, like at my core, I am too lazy to get up at sun. I will not see a sunrise. I mean, actually, it's on my 40 before 40 list. I'm going to have to do it one day this year. But I know inherently at my core that I'm never going to go out and be a time-lapse photographer. I don't have the patience. I am not a morning person. I mean, fine, if sunsets are in, like maybe I've got a chance. But actually, the reason that I love your work so much is, as well as seeing beautiful work, it is the way that you talk with such passion about what you do, and also how open you are with your creativity. Because a lot of what you put out there, you know, even the free stuff you're putting out there, and you're saying, hey, look at this really cool thing I did. This is how I did that. And it, you know, the little snippets of things, but it's seeing someone talk so passionately about, hey, this is a really creative thing and you have access to it. So like, hey, let's go make the world a better, more beautiful place together, is such an incredible thing. And I think that's why so many people are drawn to your educational content. What is something that you wish people understood about creating that educational content and doing it sustainably?
I think for other people that want to create, for example, an educational series, it could be an ebook or a guide, a PDF, a course, video course, whatever. You just gotta get started. I put it off for years, and luckily COVID hit, which kind of forced me to do that, because all of my travel work obviously finished, all the tourism and events and stuff that went out the window. So I then finally started chipping away at this mountain of work that was in front of me, that was too big to start because I didn't know how to do it, how to find the right platform. Then eventually you start doing research, and then like, what do you need on there? Well, you need a, you know, what's in this course? What am I going to put in the course? Okay, I'm going to do this and that. I need an intro. Cool. I'm going to start recording this, that, and then you start chipping away, and then it's, you know, months pass, and all of a sudden you've got 50 videos in a course ready, and then you keep adding to it, and now my course has 150 videos. It's between 120 and 150 videos in there. It keeps getting updated. I launched it maybe 5 years ago, whenever COVID started. And I keep updating it. I keep adding value to it. I'm really bad at promoting it. So thanks for picking it up. I'm terrible at pushing my own product. I love making, I love teaching. I hate selling. And my sister's like, always telling me, she's an incredible business coach, creator, teaches people how to sell stuff. She's made, you know, an incredible career and life out of it. And she's so frustrated with me because I'm just terrible at selling my shit.
Well, look, we're gonna put it in the show notes. So if nothing else, I'm going to promote this for you by
good.
putting it in there. So if anyone wants to know, you can check that. It's down the bottom. Check it out. On the subject of how do you balance being generous with your knowledge while still pouring from your own cup, pouring into your own cup?
Yeah. I used to share literally everything.
Yeah.
Because why not? I didn't know why, but just doing it. And then I was like, no, I should protect some stuff. And then someone else made the content and they blew up and then they got a following out of it. I'm like, could have been me. So I still then went back to share everything. This was before I had a paid course, or it doesn't have to be a paid course, by the way, if you want to educate. You can also just make a free guide, that was the first thing. I made a free guide that turned into a paid ebook. But with that free guide, I started collecting names and email addresses, which was my sister's advice, to get a newsletter going, or at least to get a database, how you can contact people. The best way possible, the highest converting is emails, for me at least, and 99% of other creators.
Yeah.
The ebook was free, but then I wasn't going to put all of the good stuff in there, not all the juicy stuff. That was going to go for the course. And then eventually, if you've got a paid product, you can put anything you want in there. Everything I know about time-lapse, hyperlapse, some business stuff as well, is in my paid course. There's a bunch of stuff in the free stuff, in the free course, in the free ebooks and all that. But there has to be eventually there has to be something there. And there are now things that are so niche or so unique that I don't think there's 5 people in the world that would benefit from knowing this. If they want to know, they can ask me directly and I'll happy to divulge. But yeah, maybe that's why I'm not going to make a blog or a YouTube video about it, because no one will click it because it's too niche.
I love that you've put yourself in that niche position. I mean, if anything's worth saying, like pursuing something so passionately that you create something new, that's the one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Gosh, we have covered so much. Like, this has been an absolute
keep going.
Wonderful.
I have things to do, but
yeah,
I do a part 2
should definitely, because there was a whole extra thing on here. We were going to talk about burnout.
Oh my God, yeah,
it's a
so
really
valuable.
big topic.
Yeah.
So perhaps what we need to do is invite you back and
I would
have a
love
chat
to come
about.
back and talk about my experience with burnouts.
Yeah, it's such an important one, having experienced burnout myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll leave that one for next time. But for now, if there's anyone that's been listening today, we've talked about going with the flow. We've talked about creativity. We've talked about AI, people worrying about how their creativity will look in this really specific time of change in the industry. If anyone out there is listening, what would you say is your biggest piece of advice that could help them at the moment from what you've picked up over the years in your career?
If you find something you're passionate about, you can keep doing it forever, be it as a passion, as a hobby, or as a job. It doesn't have to turn to a career. You can keep doing it just as something that you like doing. There's elements in my work that I do that I would still do if it wasn't my job. Just happy to be doing that, which is where the burnout thing becomes dangerous, because then you lose that connection with that. But yeah, if you're gonna try and make it into a career, you better be confident that you're gonna be that you're going to be wanting to do it. Is that how you say it? Jeez.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Forever.
Yeah.
And the whole like,
truly love it.
don't do a 9 to 5. Go freelance, and then it's a 24/7.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Gotta be comfortable with that.
We all did it for less hours and more flexibility, but actually we love what we do so much.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah.
If that isn't the best piece of advice ever, it will save you a lot of years, believe me. We've already talked about your education. We talked about the course. Where can people find you? Where would you love people to come and check your work?
Come check out all of my social media channels. My username is Matthews or Matt Joes, and I have free guides and ebooks about time-lapse and hyperlapse photography, a little bit about business as well, how to become a creative freelancer, I guess some advice that I've picked up over the years and I've shared. But yeah, I'm at Matt Joes on every single social media channel. So whatever is your preferred channel, you can find me there.
Easy to find. I will pop that in the show notes as well so everyone can find you. And I do genuinely recommend checking out that course. I have been on your mailing list for probably a couple of years now, and there is just some absolutely incredible snippets. So well worth supplying your email address. We're going to cut this one here. I cannot wait to welcome you back to talk about burnout. We'll find a time for that one.
Perfect.
But in the meantime, thank you so much for being here. And if you've been watching or listening and anything we talked about has resonated with you, please make sure you follow, subscribe, like, share it with someone who you think would really benefit from this content as well. And I will be back next week with more juicy content for you. Just remember, if any of this has resonated, you're not broken. You're just finding your user manual. Yeah.
That was banging.
That was a crisp high five.